Hey everyone, Sev here. Today I'm here to talk about my newest kind of in like deck that's intrigued me the most recently, and it's Adventure Scareclaw. Now, if you've known anything about the recent Yu-Gi-Oh meta, after the release of Cyberstorm Access with the release of the Manadium cards, Scareclaw has kind of seen a resurgence in play, not necessarily as a strategy of itself, but more of an engine to kind of facilitate an end board to a Manadium for a Manadium player. So this is Adventure Scareclaw. It's pretty fun to play. It has obviously its own intricacies, and it's definitely a more interesting deck because it focuses on defense position and kind of restricting your opponent that way through tryhard and such. So we'll be going to the main deck real soon, but first, a little message to you guys. Hey everyone, so this is the little message I wanted to say before I get into the deck profile. Alright, so there's this Instagram account called Yu-Gi-Oh Memes, who I followed for a few years at this point. Basically what he does, I assume it's I shouldn't say he. What they do is they basically post Yu-Gi-Oh related memes. Occasionally they host tournaments as well. They're hosting a Master Duel tournament in a few days, in fact, and the first place winner gets 2 boxes of a Yu-Gi-Oh set. I don't off the top of my head, I don't know which one it is. I think it's like $10 for entry, and you get to play with other people within his community. It's a little bit more casual, so it's a bit more casual, but it's definitely a fun time. I participated in tournaments in the past with him. It's always been a very good experience. He's a very chill guy. His tournaments are very fun people to interact with, and I guess this is like shout out to him. If you want to go enter his tournament, hit him up at Yu-Gi-Oh Memes on Instagram. I'll say I should have an image of the page on screen right now, but if you want to play some fun Yu-Gi-Oh that's a little bit more casual, but you can still like get prizing for, he's your guy to go to on Instagram. That's the dude I know. Originally I was going to stream the Master Duel tournament, however circumstances have arose to where that is not possible, so I already told him that it wouldn't be possible, and I wished him the best of luck, and he already knows about this shout out. So if you want to go to him and be like, hey, Sev sent me, maybe it'll brighten his day, who knows. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled program. You guys. Alright, now we're back from the message, let's get into the main deck. First up, we're starting with 2 Scareclaw right cards. This would be 3, I just don't have my hands on a third. So, if you're building your own deck with unlimited budget, get 3. It's better. It's better to have that third copy than to not have it. Then we're obviously playing 3 of each of the commons. Or I should say like 3 of the OG names, I should say. So 3 Astra, 3 Acro, 3 Balone. So basically, all the Scareclaws share the same special summon condition where they can summon themselves next to a Scareclaw monster. So it's basically like their whole gimmick. They span themselves out with their from the hand with their own summoning conditions. So what Astra does is it gives a monster in the EMZ. I think it's exclusively a Scareclaw monster, but I'm not certain about that. It gives a Scareclaw monster in the EMZ that's either above it or adjacent to it the ability to attack for the amount of time or equal to the amount of defense position monsters on both players' fields. So if there's like 5 defense position monsters, Tryhard can attack 5 times. What Acro does is it boosts a Scareclaw monster in the EMZ by 300 for each defense position monster you control. And I think it's all Yeah, you control with different names. Okay, I lied. So what Acro does is it basically boosts your tryhard. So this buffs it, this gives it more attacks, and what Balone does is it just gives it piercing battle damage. So if all three of these combine, most likely if you're swinging with tryhard, you're swinging for game. And then, last Scareclaw of the deck, 2 copies of Scareclaw Kashtira. Now, Scareclaw Kashtira is honestly a very unique and very welcomed addition to the deck. Being able to banish any Scareclaw or Kashtira card from your graveyard and then summoning it to the field and then it being able to attack in defense position gives us a new attacker. So if we don't have the full OG name set up here, we can still like get in good damage with Scareclaw Kashtira. And that's really all Scareclaw Kashtira does. It's a level 7 if you're playing the Kashtiras as well, if you're playing a more Kashtira heavy variant, if you're playing Scareclaw Kashtira, but we are not doing that because they're expensive and I cannot afford a Kashtira core, otherwise I'd probably be playing Kashtira. Then next we're playing 1 copy of Visa Starfrost. I'm not convinced about Thesis yet. If you saw from the opening of this video, we were playing Ruddy Rose in the deck, in the extra deck. If you have Barone, play Barone. Basically all I can say. Though Visas, if you're playing Barone, is a welcome addition. Without it though, Visas is just it kinda like clutters the deck, and so I'm thinking about cutting it. For now, and if I get a copy of Barone, then it'll obviously go back into the main deck. Next, for the Scareclaw spells, we're playing 3 of the field spell. If you're playing 3 Rykart, bump down the field spell to 2 copies. Because the field spell, it can be kind of bricky, whereas Rykart usually is never bricky, in fact it's a starter. But yeah, this card is, you can see this a lot. If you see any Scareclaw that you can normal summon, you see the field spell. If you open this card, you see the field spell, etc. Then 2 Arrival. I've seen lists where they only play 1. I like 2 because and very useful for the end board. Now to the adventure leg of the deck, we're playing 3 Enchantress, 1 Griffin, 3 Right, 1 Faithful, 1 Dracoback. One thing you might want to think about side decking is Illegal Knight. Illegal Knight against Sprite is extremely good because you can bounce back their level 2, so now their sprites are offline. So if they're already normal summoned, that kind of just freezes their turn unless they have runics. Good use for it in my deck, I'm gonna play it. Then obviously 1 Downard, 1 Baguska because it's a very good Xyz monster. 1 copy of Wallow. This is another flex spot in my opinion. If you don't want to play the Bystials, this is a flex spot for another Xyz monster, another Link monster. If you want to play the Vicious Fusion, the one that released in Cyberstorm Access, you can play that, but I don't think it's very difficult to summon in this deck. And then 1 Zeus because we're playing Zeus lines. And then for the remainder of our extra deck, the Link monsters, we're playing 2 copies of Lightheart. This searches out the field spell and also can be extended if you control Visa Starfrost. 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Ausa the Earth Charmer Immovable, 1 Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy, and then 1 Nightmare Phoenix to kind of wrap up our Link 2 package. Masquerena to make things on your opponent's turn, but it hasn't come up yet, so I don't know. Maybe I'm just not running the right Link package. That could very well be it. Ausa hasn't come up yet either, but yet again, there's not a lot of popular Earth decks this format. Dark, I think Dark would come up more if I did more if I took this to actually play this instead of just doing test hands with it. Then Nightmare Phoenix is just utility removal. Then 1 Scareclaw Tryhard. Again, this card is really nice. It helps you build your end board and is kind of your main boss monster that you're ending on in this deck because it turns all monsters on the field to defense position and it's unaffected by other defense position monsters' effects. Then 1 Access Code Talker. If you can't afford Access Code Talker, Scareclaw Tryhard will be your Access Code Talker for this deck. So, what let's discuss replacements, because I know there's a lot of modularity with this deck. So, what can you replace? First thing that you can replace if you don't like it, the Bestial stuff. Replace this with hand traps. Replace this with hand trap hate if you want to. I'd recommend hand traps because the more the merrier this format. If you don't like playing Called by the Grave, which is kind of weird, but if you want to cut it, you can. I would highly suggest not doing that though. Then obviously if you want to swap out Griffin Rider for Legal Knight, you can do that, but I've only found use for it against the Sprite matchup. But Sprite is pretty relevant in this format, so it's worth considering. And then Twin Saw, Straddle, Arrival, Visa Starfrost are all cards you can kind of get away with cutting. Twin Saw moved to the side, Straddle you could easily just cut from the deck entirely. Arrival you can obviously side it or cut it from the deck entirely. As long as you have one copy, you'll be fine. Visa Starfrost, if you have Barone, you leave it in the deck. You don't touch it, you keep it in the deck. But if you don't, there's kind of no point to having this card in the deck, because Barone is the best synchro monster you can make in this deck. So that is my Adventure Scareclaw deck profile for the July 2023 format. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in another video. Be good people.